SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
Good morning. Welcome. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Glad to have you along for the ride as we together embark on a new week. We are at the end of the month of September. Tomorrow, the last day of the month. That went by in a hurry.
Yeah.
You spend so much time waiting for September because September is when all the stuff begins. I mean, a lot of it starts in August.
Still
you get
so
kids
hot,
back
though.
in school. You get start of football season. Hunting season is kind of here. Everybody, and then it just starts boom, 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 and it's Christmas before you know it. I'm not quite ready for Christmas.
No.
Although I'm sure there's some decorations that are already out somewhere along the way. That other voice you hear is Lance Tolbert in our Jackson Network studios. He's flying the spaceship inside Studio X. I'm Richard Cross. Glad to be with you this morning. Love to hear from you. C-Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. So much going on at C-Spire. Let them help make your life a little easier. You just don't have to worry about your phone. You don't have to worry about your internet. You really don't have to worry about your business IT services if you've got C-Spire on your team. Learn more about them online at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. It's, you said it a second ago. You're talking about August. It's still so hot. Well, it's still pretty warm. All over the state, we're knocking on the door of 90 degrees, in some places exceeding it today. Corinth, you've got mostly sunny skies, very warm, a high of 89 with winds out of the northeast at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Madison, a few clouds from time to time, very warm for you, 91 degrees, same thing, winds out of the north. I mean, it is a copy and paste forecast for the entire state. Pelahatchie, a few clouds from time to time, very warm, 91 degrees. 5 to 10 out of the northeast. Plentiful sunshine today in Gulfport. Warm, 89 degrees. Your wind out of the east at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And if you're looking for highs in the 70s, you have to wait a little while longer. We have to get a little closer to Halloween before we get that. It's pretty pleasant, though. That breeze out of the north makes it a whole lot more bearable, Lance.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, this weekend, it was still hot, but, I mean, you can feel it. This morning, you get out, walk out the door, 65 degrees, and you're like, ooh, nice. I mean, that's like perfect to me. 65, can't ask for anything better than that.
How was your weekend?
Oh, it was fine. I mean, you got to get some work done and a couple of crazy football games, honestly. I think the Ole Miss one started crazy. I didn't think they were ever going to get out of their own way. And State did exactly what I thought they would do. You know, they were going to play a good game. They were motivated, and it was fun to watch. And then all the way through the night, you know, it was just good football. Yesterday, you got to watch Jackson Dart get his first dub. He threw a touchdown, ran a touchdown, and then got some yard work done and ate good, man. You know,
there you go.
Back here again.
No trip to the camp this weekend?
No, I'm going to do that this weekend. I had to stay up here. Saturdays are sometimes when the games are, you know, afternoon, I'll usually work for Dixon, and then when they're evening games, he'll take them. So this weekend, I think I get to get out of here and go up there and hang out a little bit. So
good for you. Alfred in Grenada says good morning. Good morning to you, Alfred. We appreciate you checking in. Appreciate you listening as well. Hogman, resident Arkansas fan, says he's glad that Harley Davidson man is back calling the shots for the Razorbacks. Sam Pittman fired over the weekend at Arkansas after they lost to Notre Dame. He says he bets practice is a little bit different today. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe they'll get a spark. They've got an open date.
I love it.
This
Harley
week.
Davidson, man. He's back.
Kind of light on the famous birthdays today, although this is a good one. American rock and country music singer, songwriter, pianist. Well, they're guys that tickle the ivories. He banged on them. Jerry Lee Lewis, born on this day in 1935. Whole lot of shaking going on. Great balls of fire. He was born in Faraday, Louisiana. Kevin Durant, 37 years old today, born in 1988. NBA championship, NBA Finals MVP in 2017, 2018 with the Golden State Warriors, an 11-time All-Star Game MVP. He's got 3 gold medals. Kevin Durant, born in Washington, D.C. Got a picture from a trail cam close to a feeder, and he says Hill Country Bucks this morning. Those are a couple of nice ones. There in I'm assuming North Mississippi in the Hill Country.
They're curious.
Yeah.
Like, what's that over there? I think I'll get my picture taken. Yeah.
Appreciate this food. Where'd that flash come from? My eyes are glowing. They didn't use the red eye filter on those bucks.
Halloween shot there.
1916, American oil tycoon John D. Rockefeller becomes the world's first billionaire. Adjusted for inflation, that would be a lot today. On this day in 1954, New York Giants star Willie Mays made that famous over-the-shoulder catch. Vic Wirtz thought he got all of it. He hit a 460-foot drive to center field in Game 1 of the World Series at the Polo Grounds in New York City, but Willie Mays said, nope, I got this one.
That's just a pasture. I mean, 460 feet to center. You just take off running. You don't have to worry about the wall.
Yeah, when you hear people talk about big stadiums, they're like, well, I mean, it's not exactly the Polo Grounds. And that's what you're talking about. This day in 1962, then-President John F. Kennedy authorized the use of federal troops to aid in the integration of the University of Mississippi. Not a great day in the history of Mississippi, but I'm talking about coming a long way.
Yeah, I wrote a thesis on that a long time ago, back in the college years, and the primary source information that Ole Miss possessed at the time in the library and living, those that were living that were there was, it was phenomenal to learn and to talk to those folks that were there and saw it unfold and from the different perspectives. It was just a wild and crazy moment in the history of the state and Ole Miss, having a university and a governor pitted against each other and federal troops circling the Lyceum and the craziness that ensued. Glad those days are behind us, but you grow from those moments, hopefully.
Amen to that. This day in 1963, the Cardinals celebrated Stan Musial Day in St. Louis for his final game. He got his 3,629th and 3,630th hits, 475 career home runs for Stan the Man.
He couldn't just hit. He could hit it a long way, too. Guys that hit for average and bombs these days, that's hard to find.
Yep, sure is. Sure is. Today in 1963, the Rolling Stones began their first tour as the opening act for Bo Diddley and the Everly Brothers.
Wow.
Who knew that in 2025 they would still be doing it? 1966, you had the introduction of the Chevy Camaro, originally named the Panther. So you had the Chevrolet Panther, which became the Chevrolet Camaro. This day in 1967, Gladys Knight and the Pips are the first to release Norman Whitfield and Barrett Strong's I Heard It Through the Grapevine. Had a couple of television shows that debuted in the 80s. This day in 1982, it was the first episode of Cheers, starring Ted Danson and Shelley Long. It premiered on NBC because sometimes you just want to go where everybody knows your name.
What a great show that was.
Richard Dean Anderson was the star of MacGyver. It debuted on this day in 1985.
Buddy, I've been watching the reruns of MacGyver lately. I had no idea today was the day, but I started them up a couple days ago, and I love the show is amazing. I mean,
40 years ago.
The pilot's great. I mean, you're like, what in the world's going on here? I mean,
All the duct tape and baling wire.
Oh, it was some of the funniest is like, you don't have enough in your knapsack for that. And like the pilot, he goes, it's not what I have in the knapsack. It's what I find along the way.
Mm-hmm. This day in 1985, also, Major League Baseball Baltimore Orioles manager Earl Weaver ejected from both games of a doubleheader at Yankee Stadium. Only manager to ever be tossed twice in separate games in the same day.
That's pretty impressive.
The jury got their instructions on this day in 1995 in the trial of O.J. Simpson. A couple of other quick ones. 1998, Jive Records released the debut single by Britney Spears, Baby One More Time. It became a worldwide smash sensation, topping the charts in 25 countries. 1999, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater classic video game released, went on to do $1 billion in sales over 25 years. And 2 years ago today, the Sphere Las Vegas opened with a concert by U2.
Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
You better think about what you're trying to do to me. Think, let your mind go, let yourself be free. Let's go back, let's go way on, way back when. I didn't even know you couldn't have been too much more than 10. I ain't no psychiatrist, ain't no...
Tom and Keto says good morning from the Delta. Good morning to you, Tom. Appreciate you checking in. Getting after it in a cotton picker this morning, it appears. That picture can't be today.
Yeah, it's a little early, but maybe yesterday afternoon.
Maybe so, but I like the picture nonetheless. We know what Tom's up to this time of year.
Making that money.
C-Spire text line open at 601-879-4395. Hit us up. Love to hear from you. We got some news headlines. Gulf States Toyota, one of the largest distributors of Toyota vehicles and parts, has donated a dozen cars to a pair of school systems in Mississippi. Lee County Schools and Pontotoc City Schools were the recipients of 6 Toyota Sienna minivans, each gifted to the school on Friday. The vans used for small group transportation, helping kids get to career readiness programs, after-school STEM education, internships, tutoring, general enrichment programming, and math and science fairs. The donation is in support of Toyota's broader $110 million career readiness and community engagement initiatives. They're calling it Driving Possibilities. Through the program, Toyota is collaborating with educators, nonprofits, and communities to break down barriers to learning, try and strengthen professional development for leaders, and prepare students for future workforce needs through the STEM-focused programming. So, good on you, Gulf States Toyota. Congressman Mike Ezell, out of the 4th Congressional District, is leading the charge in the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. to create the first ever Secretary of the Coast Guard position, the only branch of the military that lacks a politically appointed civilian head. The move follows a push by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem to establish the position. Ezell wrote on X, "I'm proud to lead the charge in Congress to create the first ever Secretary of the Coast Guard, giving this vital service the leadership, visibility, and accountability that it deserves. This will strengthen our national security, protect our coastlines, and support communities like those in South Mississippi." Coast Guard is the only division of the military that falls under the Department of Homeland Security's purview, while the others, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, report to the Department of Defense, which has been rebranded the Department of War. In recent months, federal officials have endorsed the notion of better aligning the Coast Guard's mission with that of the other branches of the military. The Coast Guard has more than 40,000 active duty service members. The branch primarily serves to protect water, our nation's waters, performing a range of duties: search and rescue, enforcing maritime laws against drug trafficking and illegal immigration and other related functions. Scary, awful situation yesterday in Michigan. An ex-Marine smashed a pickup into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Michigan, opening fire and setting the building ablaze during a crowded Sunday service, and then was fatally shot by police. At least 4 people were killed, 8 wounded, and authorities were searching the building ruins for more victims. It's about 10:25 Michigan time yesterday morning. Hundreds of people were in the building in Grand Blanc Township right outside of Flint. The man got out of the pickup with 2 American flags raised in the truck bed and started shooting. The police chief there, William Rain, told reporters the attacker apparently used gas to start the fire and had explosive devices. Not sure if he actually used those. Authorities identified the shooter as Thomas Jacob Sanford. He's 40 years old, of the neighboring small town of Burton. The FBI is leading the investigation. Officers responded to a 911 call. They made it to the church in 30 seconds. After the suspect left the church, 2 officers pursued him and engaged in gunfire, killing him about 8 minutes later. Flames and smoke were pouring from the large church for hours yesterday before the blaze was finally extinguished. President Trump will speak at a meeting of top military leaders tomorrow, according to a White House official. Hundreds of generals and admirals, senior commanders of the 1-star rank or higher, and their top advisors have been called to Quantico in Virginia. Pretty short notice, about a week. From all over the world they're coming in. Trump told NBC News in an interview yesterday that they would be talking about how well they were doing in the military, talking about being in great shape, talking about a lot of good, positive things, the president said. News of the meeting broke Thursday of last week, with no reason initially provided for the somewhat unusual gathering. About 58 million pounds of corn dogs and other sausage-on-a-stick related products are being recalled across the United States because pieces of wood may be embedded in the batter. According to a Saturday notice published by the Agricultural Department's Food Safety and Inspection Service, the recall covers select, quote, State Fair corn dogs on a stick, close quote, and Jimmy Dean pancakes and sausage on a stick. Products are produced by Texas-based Hillshire Brands, which is a subsidiary of Tyson Foods. The problem was discovered after Hillshire received multiple consumer complaints, some of which involved injury, and they later determined that a limited number of these products included extraneous pieces of wooden stick within the batter. You expect the stick to be in the middle, not in the cornmeal portion of the corn dog.
Yeah, it's kind of odd there. Yeah, something went wrong in the blending process.
The recalled corn dogs and sausage on a stick goods were produced between March 17th and this past Friday. Tyson is headquartered in Arkansas, but the issue was isolated to that one facility in Haltom City, Texas, they say. Okay. Eey.
Yeah, you don't want to bite into that.
That is not a Pronto Pup issue that
not.
you will be dealing with at the State Fair in Jackson.
Ooh.
For 2 weeks, Memphis has been bracing for an influx of National Guard troops after President Trump announced his intention to deploy them to the city. On Friday, residents finally learned a little bit more about the plan. Sounds like it's going to be different from those deployments in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. Governor Bill Lee said on Friday that the troops will be part of a surge of resources to fight crime in the city that includes 13 federal agencies and state troopers. The National Guard troops will be from Tennessee, and they will be deputized by the Marshal Service, the United States Marshal Service, to support local law enforcement. The Republican governor said the troops will not make arrests and they will not be armed unless local law enforcement officials request that. The governor, Bill Lee, and said he doesn't think that there will be more than 150 Guard members deployed to Memphis, but later said that number is still in the planning stages. This operation is called the Memphis Safe Task Force, and they are scheduled to begin action this week. Couldn't give an exact timeline for when each agency would start to deploy resources to the city, saying that it's going to occur in phases. Said agents from FBI, ATF, and DEA will arrive next week. In addition to the federal troops and agents, Bill Lee said that the state will provide $100 million to Memphis for public safety initiative and 300 state troopers. That's going to allow 100 troopers to be on the ground at any one time, and that is a significant increase for Shelby County, where Memphis, of course, is located. For its part, the Memphis Police Department has more than 2,000 full-time police officers. Shelby County Sheriff's Office has more than 600 law enforcement deputies, hundreds more that work in corrections. The governor and other officials have said that federal authorities were already actually focusing on Memphis. That includes an operation the FBI says has resulted in approximately 500 arrests and about 100 federal indictments since May. Trying to clean it up, trying to get that crime issue settled in Memphis. Aaron and Madison, or Aaron and Madison, said there were a lot of corn dogs in the Grove on Saturday. That's the rumor. You got to have at least one MacGyver in your bunch, especially at a hunting camp. Nice to have one person do stuff other than cook and hunt. Oh, one person. It's nice to have one person that would rather cook than hunt.
Yeah, we got a couple of those, too, that are, I mean, they just like riding around, you know, drinking the beer and then eating and cooking. Those are always great folks to know.
James in Oxford says he saw the B-2 flyover at the start of the Ole Miss LSU game on Saturday. Oh, man, it was spectacular. I told my kids in advance, I said, I'm going to cry when it happens. And I did. Oh, it was just absolutely beautiful. Picture-perfect day at Vaught Hemingway Stadium this past Saturday. We'll get into sports headlines when we come back with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Just you. So get all those blues must be 1,000 years, and each is differently used, you just know.
From the Sebring.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Welcome to the show.
I had a friend named Ramblin' Bob. He used to steal, gamble, and rob. He thought he was the smartest guy around.
It's time for your sports headlines on this Monday morning, the 29th of September, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Find them online at pearlriverresort.com, your home for family fun, casino thrills, and live entertainment. Live entertainment like this coming Saturday, Aaron Lewis and the Stateliners on center stage at Silver Star Convention Center. Then coming up in the middle of November, Tracy Lawrence at the Silver Star Convention Center. Get your tickets online at pearlriverresort.com. Trinidad Chambliss passed for 314 yards and a touchdown, his third straight 300-yard passing game since taking over for the injured starting quarterback Austin Simmons. As number 13 Ole Miss defeated number 4 LSU 24-19 on Saturday. Kejuan Lacey ran for a 15-yard touchdown. Former LSU, now Ole Miss running back Logan Diggs added a 6-yard scoring run for Ole Miss, who outgained the Tigers 480 to 254. LSU, which has struggled to run the ball this season, played without their top running back, Caden Durham, and their starting right tackle, Weston Davis. They gained just 57 yards on the ground. Placed added pressure on their quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, who was 21 of 34 for 197 yards and a touchdown. He was intercepted once in the ball game. Ole Miss fell behind 7-0 in the game. They took a 17-7 lead into the locker room. LSU with a couple of field goals, a touchdown, and a failed 2-point conversion in the second half. Ole Miss iced it with a late touchdown for the 24-19 win. Trinidad Chambliss, I may not have this stat exactly right, but he's the first quarterback in 50 years, I believe it is, to throw for 300 and rush for 50 or more in his first 3 career starts. It has been incredible. A lot of receivers in the action. Caden Lee had 4 catches. Daquan Wright had 4. Deuce Alexander and Winston Watkins both had 3 catches. Caleb Odom had a couple. The only touchdown catch of the day was for Caden Lee. Looked like he was going to have 2, but he lost a fumble down inside the 5-yard line that led to a turnover. All in all, though, a great win for Ole Miss, who moved to 5-0 overall, 3-0 in the SEC, and they get the open date this coming week. In Starkville, Joey Aguilar forced overtime with a 6-yard touchdown run with less than 2 minutes to play. Deshaun Bishop scored on a 25-yard run on the first play of the extra time. And number 15, Tennessee's 41-34 victory over Mississippi State. An instant classic, a thriller. The Vols trailed 34-27 after Zachary Tillman's interception and Seydou Traore's 2-yard scoring run with less than 8 minutes to go. Tennessee then tied it up on a 13-play, 75-yard drive after Bishop scored in overtime. The Vols were able to stop the Bulldogs on downs inside the 5-yard line. Tennessee's offense finished with 466 total yards and kind of got it going in the fourth quarter. Blake Shapen, Mississippi State's quarterback, was sacked 5 times. The Vols had 11 tackles for loss, and they turned in 2 defensive touchdowns. The Bulldogs, Shapen went 18 of 29 for 180 yards with a touchdown and an interception. Big day for Fluff Bothwell. Leading rusher for Mississippi State, averaged nearly 6 yards per carry. 2 touchdowns on the ground. He carried it 23 times for 134 yards. Devon Booth also had a rushing touchdown in the game. Traore had 4 catches. Anthony Evans had 5. Aiden Williams had a big play, a 49-yard reception. But Mississippi State got to go back to the drawing board and flush this one in a hurry because they travel to College Station to take on Texas A&M this coming Saturday. In Hattiesburg, Jeffrey Pittman scored 2 rushing touchdowns. Braylon Braxton threw for 2 more. And Southern Miss got a 42-25 win over Jacksonville State. The Golden Eagles recorded 3 wins in the month of September for the first time since 2016. They have now concluded their non-conference slate. After the opening drive stalled out, Southern Miss scored in under 2 minutes on each of their next 2 drives, both short rushes by Pittman. And then Braxton added a 6-yard rushing touchdown just before the end of the half. 21-3 was the halftime score. Braxton threw for 152 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Pittman carried it 18 times for 80 yards in the 2 scores in the win. So pretty good. Pretty good for Southern Miss, now 3-2 on the year. All 3 of their wins have come at the Rock this season. Rest of the SEC from this past Saturday, Alabama 24-21 over Georgia. Texas A&M beat Auburn 16-10. Vanderbilt now 5-0 after a 55-35 win over Utah State. Missouri stayed perfect on the year, went to 5-0. All 5 of their games have been at home so far this season. They won 42-6 over UMass. Notre Dame just blitzed their way out of the gates and never really checked up in a 56-13 win over Arkansas that ultimately cost Sam Pittman his job. And South Carolina, a winner 35-13 over the Kentucky Wildcats. New top 25 polls are out. And boy, there were some Ole Miss folks that were a little surprised, just to be perfectly honest, yesterday when the poll came out. So the number 1 team in the country in the AP Top 25, still Ohio State. They were off this past weekend. Oregon jumped 4 spots to number 2 after a road win against Penn State on Saturday night. Miami dropped a spot to number 3. They were off this week. They will play Florida State this weekend. And then at number 4 in both the AP and coaches poll, it's Ole Miss. They jumped 9 spots from 13 to 4 in the AP Top 25. They're followed by Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Penn State, Indiana, Texas at 9, Alabama at 10. Other ranked SEC teams, Georgia is 12. They dropped 7 spots. LSU is 13. They dropped 9 spots. Tennessee stays put at number 15. Vanderbilt climbs to number 16. You got Missouri at 19. Mississippi State still receiving votes in the top 25. They would be 28. Had an Ohio State fan correct me here. They said Ohio State played Washington in Seattle. We were not off. That's right. It was the week before. I was just looking at the 4 games and forgot that it was last week that Ohio State was off. So, they got the win, but Oregon's win impressive enough. Somebody says, so Ole Miss and LSU just swap spots. Yeah, it doesn't actually always work that way, but that's how it worked out this particular weekend. Let's see here. Next 7 games for Ole Miss, they play 2 ranked teams. What a joke for the so-called 4th-ranked Rebels. Jealous much? Okay. He also says 3 ranked opponents all season long is a bleeping joke. That should keep them out of the top 20 alone.
It's like Ole Miss made the schedule too. Yeah, they got to choose who they wanted to play, and then they just said, "Okay, line those guys up, and we'll just beat them all up." You play the team in front of you, and you beat them, man. You know, you can get upset about Ole Miss winning because State lost or whatever. The reality is Ole Miss won, and that's their job. In any game in front of them, that's their job. You just go win. That's all your job is.
I just got a chuckle. It's all good. All good. Let's see. You had the Ryder Cup this weekend. The Europeans survived the Americans' furious rally in singles yesterday to capture golf's biggest prize, 15-13. Ireland's Shane Lowry tied with Russell Henley in the 8th match of the day to give the Europeans their 14th point, guaranteeing they would retain the Ryder Cup. They won it outright with another half point later. Europeans have won 11 of the past 15 Ryder Cups, including 5 of the past 10 on U.S. soil. Luke Donald became only the 2nd European captain to win back-to-back Ryder Cups, joining Tony Jacklin, who did it in 1985 and 1987. Now, yesterday was not great for the Euros. They won only 1 singles match. Sweden's Ludvig Åberg beat Patrick Cantlay 2-1. The 1 match was the lowest total since Great Britain went 1-6-1 all the way back in 1957. 8.5 points in singles were the most since 12 matches have been played for the United States, but they dug themselves too big a hole playing like poo for the first 2 days of the tournament, and therefore that Golden Ryder Cup trophy heads back to Europe. All right. That was a bummer. President made an appearance on Friday, trying to rally the troops, figuratively. But Europe wins the Ryder Cup. Those are your sports headlines. I'll give you a peek after our lottery update at Major League Baseball's playoff setup and some NFL scores from yesterday as well. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for starting your day with us.
What's happening across your state? Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Last week, the Mississippi Lottery Claims Office paid out nearly $900,000, while retailers paid out almost $4.5 million. It's time for your Mississippi Lottery Update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery. Find them online at mslottery.com. Powerball jackpot continues to grow. Tonight's drawing estimated at $160 million, with an estimated cash value of $74.2 million. Mega Millions, next big drawing coming up on Tuesday. It is closing in on $500 million. The estimated jackpot, $497 million. The estimated cash value, $229,500,000. Pot is right. That is your Mississippi Lottery Update. Find them online at mslottery.com. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Grover Norquist will join us to start the 7 o'clock hour. He is the president for Americans with Tax Reform, ATR. Grover Norquist wants to get rid of taxes, and we will talk with him about that to start the 7 o'clock hour. Get his thoughts on the latest continuing resolution that was passed by House Republicans, and Democrats have said nope. We got to do some ACA stuff in this, and Republicans are saying nope, not going to do it, and it is likely going to lead to a government shutdown that will start on Wednesday. Barrett Donahoe will join us this morning. He is the executive director of the MidSouth Association of Independent Schools, MAIS. He is new in that job. Look forward to the conversation with him. That's Barrett Donahoe at 7:37. And I think JT Mitchell will be by this morning. Usually stops by around 8:30 on Monday morning. So all of that coming up with you as we continue. Major League Baseball's playoffs are set. And it should be fun. Man, they don't wait long. Regular season ended yesterday. Playoffs start tomorrow. Noon on ESPN, you've got Detroit and Cleveland, Game 1. 2 o'clock on ABC, San Diego and the Chicago Cubs from the friendly confines. Then a renewal of one of the greatest rivalries in all of sports, the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees. That game, first pitch 5 o'clock on ESPN. And then the nightcap, the Cincinnati Reds and the Los Angeles Dodgers. First pitch 8 o'clock on ESPN. And then you've got 4 teams that are just sitting and waiting to find out who their opponent will be. Toronto, Seattle, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, the division winners with the best records. Those are the 4 teams that get that first round bye. So all of those games that I told you about just a second ago, those are all best of 3 series. Remember that changed a few years back when they expanded Major League Baseball's playoffs with additional wildcard teams. And, man, it can get late early in a 3-game series. In a hurry. That's what we're used to with college baseball, not usually how Major League Baseball works. You got a doubleheader tonight on Monday Night Football. Jets at Dolphins, Bengals at Broncos. Pretty exciting day yesterday in the NFL. Steelers beat the Vikings 24-21. Falcons over the Commanders 34-27. Buffalo handed the Saints their 4th straight loss to start the year. Josh Allen, 209 yards, couple of touchdowns in the 31-19 win over New Orleans. By the way, I would anticipate a pretty good Ole Miss crowd at the Saints game next Saturday when Jackson Dart and his New York Giants will roll into the Big Easy. Tell you about Jackson Dart in just a second. Lions 34-10 over the Browns. Panthers go down big to the Patriots. Giants got their first win of the season, 21-18 the final over the Los Angeles Chargers. Jackson Dart making his professional debut, 13 as a starter, 13 of 20 for 111 yards and a touchdown. He had a rushing touchdown on a 15-yard run, 10 carries for 54 yards. Jackson Dart still doing Jackson Dart things, like being super, super aggressive in the running game. Hey, quarterback, don't try to stiff-arm the helmet or slap at the helmet of a defender who's trying to tackle you. Just go down, Jackson. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Had a little time in concussion protocol, a little worried about his wrist. Did Jackson Dart come out of the game? No, not but for a play or two. Eagles beat the Bucs 31-25 to go to 4-0. Texans over the Titans. The hapless Tennessee Titans fall to 0-4 after being shut out in Houston. Texans getting their first win. Rams 27-20 over the Colts. Jaguars beat the 49ers 26-21. Little post-game dust-up between the defensive coordinator of the 49ers and the head coach of the Jaguars. Chiefs even their record at 2-2 with a win over the Ravens. Bears 25-24 over the Raiders, and the rare tie in the NFL, 40-40. Packers, Cowboys, Sunday Night Football last night. A couple of big plays in that game for Dak Prescott, 31-40 for 3 touchdowns and 319 yards. We're back with you after this.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
From the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR benefits and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. You recognize this name, you probably recognize this voice. Grover Norquist has been on with us before, and he starts us off in the 7 o'clock hour this morning, president of Americans for Tax Reform. Grover, good morning. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Good to be with you.
Always fun to pick your brain on some of the things that are happening, especially at the federal level. So we've got this clean bill that Republicans have said, uh-oh, you're not going to jail, are you?
Well, right now the big fight going on is...
Hey, I just wanted to make sure you're not being arrested, are you? No jail time this morning? Sirens are not for you, right?
No, I'm up 4 blocks, so that police car going by is making a lot of noise.
Yeah, it was. All right, so we've got the clean bill that House Republicans have said, hey, we will extend the government, and then we're going to negotiate this American ACA stuff. And Democrats are saying, no, we've got to put all of this in the continuing resolution if we're going to agree with it. And both sides are saying, well, whatever, the government shutdown is going to be on you.
Well, it's worse than that. 7 months ago, the Republicans said, let's do a continuing resolution and just keep everything where it is, and we'll discuss things. So they've had 7 months, the Democrats, to put their ideas forward, to make their case publicly, to have a conversation with Republicans, with their own base. And 7 months ago, back in March, Schumer, the leader of the Democrats in the U.S. Senate, said, guys, you Democrats, you other Democrats, you want to shut the government down. Do you understand what that means? That means that when the funding ends, the legal funding for much of the government, not all of it, but much of it, doesn't change Social Security, Medicare, those things that have their own funding sources. But if you're funded by the income tax and there's not enough income and there's no appropriation for that money, then there's no way to legally pay people or send out contracts. So the government, the president, the Office of Management and Budget, will decide what bills get paid. And do you really want, fellow Democrats, said Schumer, for President Trump to have this power? This is exactly the conversation I and others had with Republicans 4, 8, 10 years ago, when some Republicans go, let's shut the government down. That's a brilliant idea. And we said, you do understand that means Obama makes all the decisions. We don't care. We would need to do something big and important and look important and something. But if you do this, you give all the power to Obama. And so generally the Republicans got talked out of going crazy, but the Democrats are not up for being talked out of it. And so Schumer, who had been telling them, guys, this is a bad idea, and it'll let the Republicans make all the decisions, is now leader of the band that he was once trying to quell. It's like the lynch mob, the guy who tries to talk the lynch mob out of things, and he changes his mind and decides it's going to help. So he's up there, saying we're going to do this. Oh, but by the way, before we negotiate with you about the next 2 months, we have to insist that you give us $1.5 trillion with a T in additional spending, including spending the Democrats decided not to do themselves. When they were in power, they did not continue that spending because a lot of it is COVID spending. This is money that was an emergency for COVID, long after COVID was not a thing anymore. And now they still wish to take it out years and years to pay for COVID. No, just to pay their friends. So now what's going to happen? The head of OMB, Russ Vought, brilliant guy, will oversee, and he's been planning this out. If you have to lay people off, who do you lay off? Who's the least important? Who will do? Who shouldn't be in the government anyway? What jobs we don't need there? So rather than the old way of doing it, which was tell everybody to go home for a month, and then when they come back, so they don't do their job for a month. Then when they come back, you pay them for the month anyway, and then you keep paying them. So the old way of doing it saved not a single penny of taxpayer dollars. The new way permanently saves money for taxpayers, sculpts the government down to where it shouldn't be as fat as it is. And Schumer's figured out this is likely what will happen, and he's warned his team, but they're going to do it anyway. Do you remember Animal House, where at the end they're all told they're going to get thrown out of school, they close down the fraternity, and somebody says, now the time is for a truly stupid and futile gesture, and they all run out into the streets and do stupid things? That's the Democrats.
Well, and the really interesting part of this is what you touched on there at the end. I mean, President Trump came out and said, and this is not something that has just happened. He said, all right, get a list ready of people that are going to be fired. And these are not paid vacations this go around. They are not layoffs. I do think it's going to be fascinating to see if Republicans and the Trump administration follow through on this, if indeed there is a shutdown, which would start on Wednesday, October 1st, if all of these positions are indeed terminated. Will they follow through?
Well, when you let someone go, that's pretty permanent. And how are you going to get the money to pay people if you don't have it? We do need to permanently reduce the number of bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. The comptroller of the Defense Department, Dov Zakheim, years ago said that at the end of the Cold War, we reduced the number of soldiers in the Army and the Navy and the Air Force, but what we didn't reduce at the same level were the number of bureaucrats, and that there were 700,000 bureaucrats. They really needed maybe 500,000, but there are 200,000 people at the Pentagon who maybe made sense at the height of the Cold War when you were spending 6% of GDP on defense. But with the Cold War over and we're spending more like 3%, it didn't make sense. So there needs to be, the Pentagon alone could save 200,000 people who go find something else to do, because right now it's just duplicative. Imagine if the Pentagon has that level of duplication. What do you think the rest of the government looks like?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think sometimes when we hear this, we don't think about the trickle-down effect because there are government workers, millions and millions of them outside of Washington, D.C. It's not just a Beltway thing. You've got people in government jobs all over the country, and that tends to hit a little closer to home. I'm not saying that makes it any less necessary, but it becomes a whole lot more real when you've got friends or family members or people who have nothing to do with what's happening in D.C. They're just doing their job, and all of a sudden they don't have a job. That part of it is tough.
Yeah. But that does happen in the real world.
It does.
That sometimes jobs end. And because the job is done better and more because of new technology, or because things have changed and that job is not necessary, or you have many fewer bases and many fewer armed, uniformed combatants, it makes sense. The support staff would also go down. It is odd that has not been altered in decades after the. We still have problems with the Soviet Union. We still have problems with China, but not to the extent we did when the Soviet Union was staring us down with nuclear weapons on a regular basis. These are the guys we now know who can't even take over Ukraine next door, which used to be part of them.
Yeah. Is this fait accompli at this point? Will it 100% happen, or is there some chance that they negotiate something today or tomorrow?
Well, since the Democrats want $1.5 trillion that we don't have, and that the Trump administration is not going to go out and steal it.
Yes.
And so they're just asking for something that makes their base feel good. Well, they're playing to the left-wing base, promising them goodies that the country can't afford, taxpayers can't afford. Every day people lose their jobs in the real economy because taxes are so high on businesses.
Grover, forgive me for interrupting. Have you got time to hang through the break for just a couple more questions on the other side?
Certainly, yes,
All
absolutely.
Right. We'll continue the conversation with Grover Norquist right after this. He's with Americans for Tax Reform.
Your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Back with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. I asked Grover Norquist before the break, and we ran out of time there. Appreciate you hanging over. Is this a done deal, or is there some chance that this negotiation benefits, keeps us from a government shutdown? And Grover, I think where you were headed from that is when one side says we're not budging on this and the other side has ridiculous demands, it seems like the outcome is inevitable.
It is. Again, the Democrats have had 7 months to put together a reasonable compromise, and all they did is throw rocks at the back of the president's head and pout. So I don't see how they would convince anyone they're serious. If they were serious, we would have heard about it last month, the month before, the month before, the month before, or the month before that. They're showing up at the end of the day, and CBS, NBC, and ABC will all say, oh, the Democrats have a great proposal, but they won't tell you what it is. Watch it on TV. They never explain what it is, and they don't explain its cost. So they're just going through the motions to trying to convince the average citizen that they're being reasonable, but they're not. And most importantly, convincing their base that wants something radical done and that wants a lot more money spent on welfare.
Visiting with Grover Norquist from Americans for Tax Reform. He is the president of that organization. And when we've talked in the past, you've laid it out that Americans for Tax Reform is against, it's about eliminating tax and getting the government out of our pockets. It's also part of a more complex overall economic system. And so this is more of a big picture question. When you look over at $213 billion collected through tariffs so far, with a projection of over $300 billion that it appears we are on the way to, but also recognizing that much of that tariff income has been absorbed by Americans kind of in their day-to-day life in terms of prices. What grade do you give this administration so far in terms of economic policy and, tax reform in general?
The big win that the Trump administration got was that they took the 10-year tax cut. Remember, Bush had a 10-year tax cut, but at the end of 10 years, much of it went away.
Mm-hmm.
Trump had a 10-year tax cut, because under the rules, you could only make certain tax cuts 10 years. And he was able to make it permanent into the future. So the lower taxes on smaller businesses made permanent. The expensing, faster depreciation for businesses building new factories and getting new equipment and new computers and better trucks and so on, all of that expensed year one to make it less expensive to make workers more productive. Doubling the per-child tax credit, now permanent. The Democrats wanted to end it. Double it, made permanent. Doubling the standard deduction. The Democrats wanted to bring it back to half of what it was. The Republicans increased it and made it permanent. So all of these permanent tax cuts are no longer negotiable. We don't have to take that same hill again and again and again as Bush did. And so getting the House and the Senate and the President together to make that happen really alters the decision. If you're a business guy, you need to know, should you open another store? Should you buy another truck? Do you get better computers for everybody this year or someday in the future? You now know what the rules are, the tax rules, and you make those decisions easier and quicker and make people more productive. We're hearing of all the companies. The big companies make announcements. The little companies just do it. Announcing we're going to be spending this much more on new investment in making Americans more productive. The more productive a worker is, the more he can get paid. More he has to get paid, because he'll go someplace else if that is making the workers more productive. So you compete for paying people more when they're more productive. That was a huge, huge step. The deregulation that has begun to take, the guy's only been president again for 9 months, right? Something like
right.
9 months, I guess. Yeah.
So
it does seem quicker than other presidencies. They've announced they're getting rid of a lot of the regulations on cars, which will make cars easier and less expensive to buy. They're making it easier for people to drill for oil and natural gas, bringing the energy costs down. The deregulation is a huge, and the other big one that they're still fighting the Democrats on is permitting. All of these permits that take years and years to give somebody a permit to widen the road by one lane because you're worried that the caribou, can't cross the wider road or something in Alabama. It's just ridiculously stupid. And that needs to speed up. That should be much quicker. It's why everything takes longer. It takes longer to get a permit than it used to build, skyscrapers in New York. That's nuts. So those deregulations really make life easier. The lower taxes do as well. The president said he was going to use the tariffs to leverage other countries to change their tax and tariff policies, which hurt Americans. He didn't get the agreements he wanted because we ended up with a bunch of tariffs still on other countries, and they're paid by American citizens, of course. Tariffs are taxes on the country that levies them on their citizens. But the goal was to get other countries to drop their tariffs so we could drop ours too. And we didn't get we had some agreement, some progress with Europeans, not as much as we'd like. And so hopefully we'll be able to force down some of the European regulations and taxes on our companies.
Last thing for you, cost of goods. We know that traditionally when prices go up, they don't really come back down. Now, there are some commodities where the prices fluctuate a little bit, but, building materials, if you tried to build a house pre-2020, it was, half what it costs now, depending on where you are. Is there any scenario where you see some of the prices that have skyrocketed, whether it's grocery or industrial supplies or building materials, actually coming back down closer to where they were pre-COVID? Or is it one of those things where we've just got to adjust and that's kind of the cost of doing business going forward?
Well, one of the things the president tried to do in his first term, President Trump, and then in this term, I talked to him about it, and he remains excited about it, and the Treasury Secretary likes it, and the House and Senate like it as well. It's something that will probably be done through Treasury by a rulemaking, and that is to end the taxation on inflation when you deal with capital gains. When Reagan came in, he ended the taxation on inflation for personal income taxes. So the income tax brackets go up with inflation. Before Reagan, every time the inflation went up, you got put into a higher tax bracket. You didn't do anything. You got moved into the higher tax bracket. Not better off, just more funny money you were getting paid. But your taxes went up. The same thing happens with capital gains. When you sell your house, much of what you pay capital gains on, when you sell a farm, when you sell a small business, when you sell stock you've owned for decades, all of that you're paying mostly taxes on inflation. If you can do that, the value of the house to you, and you get ready to sell it, goes up. And people will sell houses more easily. They won't wait until they pass and do the step up in basis. This is something, I was talking to the realtors, they think that this would really speed up making houses available to younger couples, and the value in the home will be much greater because it actually is a store of value, not a store of inflation that you pay taxes on. And that's probably the most dramatic thing he could do between now and the election, because it can be done by a rulemaking in Treasury.
That certainly is an interesting concept, and one that perhaps we can explore more on another day. Grover, always appreciate your time, your insight. Good to visit with you.
Hey, and you guys are leading the way to get rid of that income tax in Mississippi. I'm talking to South Carolina, North Carolina. They're terribly jealous.
It's a process. It's going to take a little while, but the first steps have certainly been taken, and we're on the way. Thanks so much for your time.
You got it.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Glad to be with you. We will stick with guests. Barrett Donahoe joins us next, Executive Director of the MidSouth Association of Independent Schools, MAIS. We're back with you after this. More MRC.
Don't take her for granted. She had a hard time. Got to know she's a sensitive guy.
From the city.
This segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Good morning, everybody. Time to wake up.
Time to shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Well, it's alright, as long as you got someone to lay. Well, it's alright.
It is great to be with you on this Monday morning. Just 2 days left in the month of September. Today, September 29th, 2025. Richard Cross, Lance Tolbert in the studio. And Barrett Donahoe joins us now. He's Executive Director with the MidSouth Association of Independent Schools. So whether you call it school choice or educational freedom, we have talked and talked and talked about this issue, and I feel like we've tried to kind of cover all of the angles. And yet, have you ever been in a situation where there was a kid in the room and you had two parents or two adults who were talking about that kid, maybe talking about discipline, maybe talking about how they had performed in school, and the kid goes, "Hey, I'm right here. You can include me in the conversation if you'd like." Barrett, I feel like in some ways, private schools, the MAIS, have kind of been that kid in the room with people talking about it and around it with him sitting right there when it comes to this conversation about education freedom, school choice. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Is that a reasonable assessment that private schools have been a big part of the conversation in the education freedom school choice debate, but maybe haven't had as much of a voice as they should?
I think that is accurate to a degree. I mean, for a number of years, our Independent School Association really took a back seat to the conversation with school choice, not from the standpoint of wanting to advocate or be a part of the conversation, but really to kind of say, hey, this isn't something that we're very comfortable with. The big part of our association, what makes us thrive, is our independence, right? And so to start the conversation about school choice and what that's going to mean for our schools as we navigate through dealing with funding that can come in from different sources, that's something that we didn't necessarily support at times. That has changed over the years, and that has changed drastically over the last year, especially with what we saw come down from the federal government with the ECCA and Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. I think they're starting to navigate that conversation called the OK program. We spent a little bit of time on Capitol Hill 2 weeks ago and had great conversations with the Department of Education. But yes, I mean, we're here. We want to be a part of the conversation. We want to be and have a seat at the table. Now, there's a lot of things that as we navigate conversations with our local state representatives and senators that we want to impress on them that are important to us, important to who we are, the backbone of our association. But yes, over the years, we have become much more active in the conversations. But you're right. At some point, you've got to recognize, hey, independent schools in Mississippi are real. I mean, we have 40,000 students in the state of Mississippi that are part of our association, 55,000 independent school students, and so 15,000 outside of our association, and we employ 6,000 teachers, coaches, staff members throughout our schools. We have a huge economic impact on the state of Mississippi, so we want to sit at the table with all the discussions that are taking place at the state capitol right now.
You'll have to forgive me if I am using private school and independent school interchangeably.
It's okay. Everybody does. Don't worry about it.
I know that's maybe something you push back about. I do think the name is important. It's MidSouth Association of Independent Schools, not Mississippi Association of Independent Schools. There are independent schools, in Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, that are all part of the MAIS. Is that accurate?
That's correct. We have 114 in the state of Mississippi. We have 17 in Louisiana. We have 4 in Arkansas, and we have 3 in Tennessee. And those numbers can change, and they grow from time to time. The good thing about school choice and how it relates to Mississippi in general and our conversations with our leaders at the Capitol here in Mississippi is that we are able to navigate and watch what is taking place in other states. And what we've learned over the last, really over the last 12 months are what's working and what's not in those states that we serve and we have member schools. Right now we're seeing tremendous success with our Arkansas schools with the LEARNS Act and the things that are taking place there. They're thriving right now because of some things that they've put in place there. Louisiana, I think there was some funding issues with the Gator program. We've talked to our Louisiana schools about that and what the challenges that they faced. But that gives us a unique perspective because we do serve schools outside of our state. We can go and study and learn what's good practice, what's not good practice, what's been successful for our member schools outside the state. We have some large schools in Louisiana that are some of the largest in our association and thriving in our association. Our schools in Arkansas are in some rural communities in the Arkansas Delta, and they are thriving from the LEARNS Act. So for us, you say that MidSouth Association of Independent Schools, that's an important part of our name because it encompasses all of the states that we serve. But it also gives us a perspective of learning of good practices through school choice and things that are taking place other places.
From your perspective, I think most people with independent schools would be quick to admit that a thriving and healthy public school system is important. What is the role of independent schools, particularly in Mississippi?
Well, we talk about what do we support? Well, I think I'm going to answer that by what do we support and what do we not support in school choice. I mean, the role in independent schools, and you're 100% correct, we recognize that the coexistence of our independent schools and public schools is so important for all regions of our state. Okay, but faith-based learning and the opportunity to provide a Christian education in so many areas is so wanted by so many of our stakeholders. And so when we talk about what we will support, or I say what we will support, what we support through any type of school choice legislation, it's based on, being able to protect our mission statements. What do our mission statements say? And our mission statements can say so many different things across the board of all of our schools. I mean, when you talk about college preparatory, when you talk about Christian education, when you talk about those type of things, but protecting our mission statements is so important. And so what makes independent schools in Mississippi thrive is the ability to provide something that is different inside of that community, that is not necessarily something that is important, or not necessarily important. I won't say important, but is not the focus of the public school in that community. And so
alternative.
An alternative. And so it's just, it's the other options that we provide. And we're, because of that, we have an economic impact in so many communities in the state of Mississippi that is important. It's real. And I believe that more than ever, our state legislators are recognizing that.
All right, so specifically, does the MAIS support, it's such a broad question, the idea of education freedom, the idea of school choice? I realize that I'm asking that without a bill to put in front of you to say, hey, this is what school choice might look like. But overall, is there a level of support from the MAIS for school choice?
Protect the mission statements, protect the mission statements, allow us to have some form of conversation about what the accountability model looks like inside of whatever legislation. You're right. I haven't seen legislation yet. I know that they're actively working on that, and that's going to be extremely important. And then, be able to not just protect the mission statements, but also the admission standards, and have the schools develop those and cultivate those. And they have been over years. And as our association has grown so much more diverse than it has been in the past, protect the admission standards and what that student looks like when they enter into the independent school world. Yeah, we would support something of that nature. There's always the fear in the independent world of governmental creep. Okay, that's real. I'll say it. But at the same time, we have a unique opportunity at this point to have that seat at the table about what the accountability model is going to look like if anything passes. Through admission standards and mission statements and protection of those two things, that would be where our level of support would rise.
When you say accountability model, there are lots of people that ask about standards and the standards for testing or for teachers being different between public schools and independent schools. Is that particularly what you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. We're a recognized accrediting agency by the state of Mississippi, and actually even into Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, and because of that, our accreditation, we duly accredit schools. So we have three commissions that we serve as members of the MAIS office, and those commissions are our Athletic Commission, our Accreditation Commission, and our Teacher Certification Commission. And over the years, we've cultivated a very robust accreditation process that is now duly reciprocated by Cognia, which is one of the world's largest accrediting agencies. And so for that purpose, I feel like, and I'll say that, I feel like our accreditation model should be the accountability. If you're accredited by and by MAIS school, if we are able to go in and certify you and certify your teachers through the ways that we do those things, then yes, absolutely. That's the accountability model. Now, Arkansas has moved towards state norm testing, which is ACT, standardized testing, those type of things. But, accountability, accreditation, that's where we land.
Barrett Donahoe is Executive Director of the MidSouth Association of Independent Schools. We will continue the conversation on the other side of this timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
Feel it coming in. The mountains win again. The mountains win again.
From your day right.
Good morning, America. How are you?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
MRC with you on this Monday morning. Thanks for spending part of the start of your day with us. If you're on the way to school or work, be careful this morning, and hope everybody's off to a good early start to the week. Barrett Donahoe is my guest. He is Executive Director with MAIS. We're talking about school choice, educational freedom, and the role that independent schools play in this conversation. Barrett, one of the things that has been thrown around and talked about, and it's a little hypothetical, it's a little ambiguous because, as we discussed a second ago, there's not an actual bill. But it's been about, where the money goes. Does money follow students? We know that parents of independent school children pay local taxes. The majority of funding for students comes from local taxes. Obviously, a bunch of it comes from the state of Mississippi. And the question has been, does the money follow the student? If a student makes a transition from public school to private school, to independent school. There has been a school of thought that at using $6,500 roughly is the per student cost that the state funds students at, that if that money were to follow a student to a private school, that a lot of private schools, independent schools, would simply raise their tuition at a comparable amount to follow that around, and it wouldn't necessarily change anything. Where do you fall in that conversation? What does that look like?
Well, I think it costs more than $6,500 to educate a child.
Well, that's true.
I think that, and I think that our schools, we have so many member schools that do it for less than that. And that's the problem with independent schools serving as a head of school where we had 800 students versus serving as a head of school in North Mississippi where we had 250 students. I can tell you finding financial equilibrium is extremely difficult in any independent school, especially if you're not charging tuition rates or the equivalent of $7,000 or more. I mean, and we have so many schools that are doing that. Where do we fall on our member schools? Will our member schools increase tuition? I think because conversations are out there in legislation or about what's going to be written in legislation about that that actual commentary. I don't see something that's not written in that prohibits that on some level. Now, do I think there should be some freedom for independent schools to look at what tuition rates are, to be able to say, hey, this is what the state of Mississippi plus the federal government are putting into educating students in public schools, and we've got to be able to be comparable with that, not just because we have a deficiency in the talent or deficiency in the actual teaching pool today in across the United States, but because we have a deficiency in our association with teacher pay, with retirement, with all the things that go into making a school operational and providing a good experience for your employees. Yeah, I think there's, where we fall with that is we do and expect conversations as legislation is rolled out, as parts of bills are being introduced, as in having conversations. We do feel like that's going to be something that the state legislation looks at, closely monitoring, and we're going to be very active in conversations about that, and hoping that our member schools, if school choice passes, that we can support, hoping that our member schools will behave in a manner that will allow them to be financially sound and more stable if that money follows the student, but also at the same time, gives them a little bit of freedom to do what it takes to educate a child with the money that's being spent.
You brought up something in the previous segment that I want to go back to. You talked about admission standards and wanting those to stay in place in the event that some sort of school choice goes into place. I think it's important for us to talk about what that means. So we're talking about academic admission standards, but also admission standards rated to discipline, in some cases tied to statements of faith. All of those things would need to stay in place from your perspective. Is that right, to give independent schools the ability to still choose who they admit? Am I hearing that right?
Yeah. Now, I don't want to say choose who you admit. Okay, I think that is not what the narrative needs to be. But you have in our schools, in our member schools, you have mission statements that are real, that are definable, that say who you are as a school, and everybody's mission is different. Okay, I don't think you could go to any of our independent schools and say that mission or that group of families or that group of students looks exactly like the other school across from them. Okay, even if they're 15 miles down the road. And with those mission statements come admission standards, academic standards, discipline standards, just like you talked about. Okay, and we definitely want to be able to maintain our missions, protect our mission standards, and yes, it's not choosing the students, it's allowing the students who want to be acclimated into that environment the opportunity to be acclimated into that environment and thrive when they do so.
Barrett, I appreciate you joining the conversation. Good visit with you this morning, and hope we can talk again in the future.
Richard, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Barrett Donahoe, Executive Director of the MidSouth Association of Independent Schools. 2 hours in the books. Hour number 3, the 8 o'clock hour, is on the way. News is next. And we're back with more with you on Mornings with Richard Cross, right here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Good luck had just stung me. To the racetrack I did go. She bet on one.
Morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em. Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good conversation with Barrett Donahoe from the MAIS. Just another layer in the conversation surrounding educational freedom, school choice in the state of Mississippi, and what that might look like as we move closer to the 2026 legislative session. So what, we're at the end of September, so October, November, December. We got 3 months before our lawmakers are back in session in Jackson for year 3 of this cycle. Good to be with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Got a lot going on in SuperTalk world over the next few days. Gerard's going to be on the road for the next couple of days. That's the Tech Crunch event, I believe it is. You'll hear more about that as we go through the week. And then it's Sanderson Farms Championship Week, and both Middays with Gerard Gibbert and Sports Talk Mississippi will be there later in the week. We'll give you the details on that as well. If you missed any part of the show, remember you can go back and get it on demand at supertalk.fm. You can follow Mornings Cross on X. If you want to see some clips there, Lance gets those up pretty quickly every single day. If you miss any of the show, you can certainly catch the high points. Lot going on, and probably the biggest story at the national level right now is the impending government shutdown. The funding for governmental business is in place through tomorrow, which means on Wednesday, if there is no deal in place, there will be a government shutdown, and both sides seem to be kind of locking in. The blame game will be in full effect. Lance, Republicans will say it's Democrats' fault. Democrats will say it's Republicans' fault. Grover Norquist earlier told you that Democrats have had 7 months to negotiate or try to get done some of the things. My word's not his. They spent a lot of time fighting against Trump things as opposed to fighting for the things that they believe in.
Well, it sounds like they're really wanting $1 trillion, according to Mr. Grover Norquist as well, and seems a little ambitious, honestly, given the current state of things.
So you had all the Sunday shows yesterday talking with Republican and Democrat leaders, and Democrat leaders signaling that health care subsidies set to expire at the end of the year remain a key sticking point. They've been adamant that Republicans will not get their party's support without action on the Affordable Care Act subsidies, an issue that Republicans have said they're not touching until after government funding discussions. Chuck Schumer says they want a real negotiation when they meet later today at the White House with Trump. And this is him saying, well, it depends on Republicans. The meeting's a first step, but it's only a first step. We need a serious negotiation. So if they're serious, I'm hopeful we can get something real done.
The Affordable Care Act. I love the name of that. I did spend a lot of time dealing with that when I was licensed and working hard. And that is I don't know if you could misname something any better.
I mean, it should, instead of being the ACA, it really should be the UCA, shouldn't it? The Unaffordable Care Act?
I would go with that 100% with a smile on my face because, when your premiums go up 300 to 400% in day one, I don't know how you can say that's affordable. And that was long before the inflationary times that we're dealing with now. So, just put that into perspective. And we're still dealing with an act called the Affordable Care Act. And that's what they've sold America, which the left is really good at doing. Is labeling something other than it actually is. They're real good with the labels.
John on the C Spire text line. By the way, you can join the conversation on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Ready for your winning strategy? Here it is. Join C Spire. All the technology and support you need to succeed at home, at work, and everywhere else. Visit cspire.com today. C Spire, inspired by you. John says, what was the big, beautiful bill? Another continuing resolution, so why boast about a budget being in place, only need another one 2 months later? Two different things, John. Two different things. The one big, beautiful bill was a standalone. There was, at about the same time, a continuing resolution that continued government funding or extended the deadline for government funding through the end of September. And now we're at the end of September. They've got to pass another continuing resolution, which House Republicans have done. It's a clean bill. It just basically says continue funding the government at the current levels through the end of the calendar year, and then we've got 3 months to negotiate the other stuff. Now, if you're confident that they're going to negotiate the other stuff over the next 3 months and get it all into place, good for you. I'm not sure that I've got that same level of confidence. But the one big, beautiful bill and a government funding bill were not the same thing. It was two different things that were passed.
Even during the Triple B, you were told this was going to come up.
Yeah,
so this is not new, and it didn't just happen. This was we knew this, and they were going to have to get together. Like Grover said, you had 7 months to come up with something, and all you've had is infighting.
You had both John Thune and Mike Johnson come out with quotes on the Sunday morning shows yesterday on Meet the Press. John Thune says this is totally up to the Democrats. The ball is in their court. What the Democrats have done here is take the federal government as a hostage, and for that matter, by extension, the American people, to try and get a whole laundry list of things they want. The special interest groups on the far left are pushing them to accomplish. Mike Johnson, for his part, said the Obamacare subsidies is a policy debate that has to be determined by the end of the year, not right now, while we're simply trying to keep the government open so we can have all these debates. He went on to say that the Republicans are operating completely in good faith to get more time, and once again pointed to that House measure where he said we didn't add a single partisan priority or policy rider at all. It was a clean bill. It was keep the government funded at the level at which it is currently funded, and we'll negotiate the rest because that's our job. But you're not going to throw $1.5 trillion into a continuing resolution for government funding that gives you what you want on the Affordable Care Act subsidies.
Hey, I mean, you already the debt per taxpayer, the people that actually pay taxes in this country, $320,000 per person. If you spread that over 340 plus million people, that's $109,000 per person. So they want to add $1 trillion. And what do you think that's going to do to the debt per taxpayer? You think that's going to help it at all? So the burden that you and I and those of us that go to work every day are required to pay off over the lifetime of our lives, $324,000. Now, you got that lying around? I don't. I mean, you know, so I'm in debt to the world to the tune of $324,000 because I am a taxpayer. So, I mean, like, you think that's fair? I'd love to hear Grover Norquist's opinion on that. So you're going to mortgage my future, the future of your children and everybody else, because the Democrats want to give away some money to somebody else. I guarantee you're not getting it.
J.D. Vance said to Martha McCollum on Fox News Sunday, we don't want to shut down the government, but if Democrats refuse to just pass this clean continuing resolution, that's exactly what's going to happen, and I think the Democrats are going to bear the responsibility for it. And he's right. They will. I mean, if they don't pass the continuing resolution to fund the government, it is going to shut down on Wednesday. But as Grover Norquist talked about, and as we visited last week, it's going to be a different kind of shutdown than we've had in the past. In the past, if you had a friend or a family member that worked in government and there was a shutdown, let's say it lasted 2 weeks or a month. Well, they didn't go to work for 2 weeks or a month, and work piled up on their desk. And then when they returned, they got the pay for the time that the government was shut down. They went on about their job as normal, and that work either didn't get done or it got done in a delayed fashion that piled up while they were out. Trump has, in coordination with the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, has said, tell all of your department heads, put together a list. If they are non-essential, if you deem those positions to be non-essential and they're going to be sent home during a shutdown, eliminate the positions. Not all of them, but a lot of them. That's a really fancy way, eliminate the positions. It's a tidy way of saying you're fired. And so not only are Democrats going to have, theoretically, a government shutdown on their hands, they're going to have a lot of people that no longer have a job. And that's hard, right? I mean, you know people that work in government that will be not laid off, but terminated if this government shutdown goes into effect on October 1st. And that is a hard pill to swallow. But it's also more along the lines of running a government like a private business. Because if a private business can't afford to pay their people, you know what they do? They get rid of their people because they have a spending problem. Government doesn't do that. It just prints more money. Looks like that may change this go around.
Wake up! Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
I can tell by the way you smile, it's rolling back. Come wash the nighttime clean. Come grow the scorched ground green. Blow the horn and tap the tambourine.
Great being with you on this Monday morning, the start of a new week. JT Mitchell will be along before too much longer. Look forward to visiting with JT as we do every Monday morning just after 8:30. You can join the conversation on the ceasefire text line, 601-879-4395. John did have one other question about potential government shutdown. He says, what does that mean for those on Social Security disability, Social Security? Will they still get paid with the government shutdown? Yes. Yeah, they will. It's a different pot of money. Mm-hmm.
The point you made earlier as well about, when the government runs out of money, they can just print money. They can, but again, it's your money. It's tax dollars, right? I mean, you're paying for this. And if you aren't paying it, it's mortgaged. That's called inflation. That's what's happening here, right?
Yeah.
When you owe $320,000 per taxpayer, go back 10 years and look at that number. And then look at the cost of goods. There is a correlation to that. You don't just print money. Yeah, you can print it and you can plug holes in the dike if you want to with it, but it's worthless unless you and I pay for it.
And at some point, the bill comes due.
It's going to come due. And the whole Western world is just handing debt off left and right to one another. And we've got a whole party here, roughly half the country, that thinks this is a good idea. Let's just keep doing this.
Yeah.
And that's insanity.
John says, thanks. Nobody seemed to have an answer for that. Yeah, I mean, Social Security payments are not stopping.
Yeah, I mean, that's
disability payments.
Those are
stopping. Those are
guaranteed.
Yeah, that's not part of a government shutdown.
Yeah, they'll jack up whatever they have to or print whatever to pay for those because those are guarantees.
Well, it's not like we're not collecting income tax still. I mean, the government is not. I mean, well, hold on a second. I started to say the government is not broke. The government is exceedingly broke. But the government does have cash flow.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing in $5.5 trillion in taxes and cash flow, basically.
Yeah.
The debt.
Thomas, in fairness, do Republicans cut spending? They campaigned on it last year. No.
Well, again, you're spending $7.4 trillion. You're bringing in $5.5 trillion. That's a difference of $1.899 trillion. Yeah. So the Democrats say, hey, let's double down. Let's just double that.
Yeah.
Or who's going to pay for it? Because that means your taxes have to go up if you're going to keep it at the rate you are. So, I mean.
Did they cut spending? Are they cutting spending? No, they're not. But we talked about that. I mean, Democrats, Republicans, nobody cuts spending. Everybody says they're going to. Nobody actually does it.
Spending does come down to interest paid as well. So, theoretically, you could be cutting spending by reducing interest.
There are some things economically that Republicans have done in the last 9 months that are net positives for taxpayers, with some of those tax cuts becoming permanent that Grover talked about earlier this morning, with $13 billion collected. I know, tariffs that came out of our pocket. I get that. But it's like the first time in a really, really long time that on a month-to-month basis, the government has not operated at a new deficit number. Thomas, you come on now. You're smarter than this. So why bother voting, other than to know that my vote canceled out the vote of someone else? That is such a simple-minded approach, Thomas, and you're smarter than that, and you know that.
Yeah, let's just appoint
because
everybody.
It's not there is more to elections and there is more to government than just the economy. It's the most important issue to you. You've made that abundantly clear over years and years and years. They're not cutting spending. They're not doing anything else. Well, it's not that they're not. They are doing other things. You think the Supreme Court appointments that were made during Trump's first administration have not been a net positive for conservatives? Now, you haven't gotten everything you wanted from the Supreme Court, but nobody's ever going to get everything they want. The court shouldn't operate in a way where one side or the other gets every single thing they want on every single issue that comes before them. That's not a good judicial system. It's not. But in the aggregate, what the Supreme Court has done in the last decade is a net positive for conservatives. 100%. There are just a lot of things that you look at in terms of the way the country. I mean, do you believe in whether you like the way he talks or the way he presents his arguments or you think he's bombastic or whatever else, if you are on the Republican side of the aisle, do you not think a lot of what Donald Trump has done in his first 270 days in office has been good or has been better than if Kamala Harris had been elected president? And so that's just such a narrow, silly way of thinking when you're like, oh, why even bother voting? Just so my vote can cancel out? No. You're never going to get all of what you want, regardless of the party that's in charge.
And you shouldn't.
And you shouldn't. Not in a two-party system. It shouldn't work that way. Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe has signed the state's new congressional map into law, setting the GOP up to potentially gain one additional seat in the House in next year's election. Kehoe said, I was proud to officially sign the Missouri First map into law today ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. Missourians are more alike than we are different in our values across both sides of the aisle, blah, blah, blah. Kehoe signed the bill after the measure comfortably passed in both houses of the legislature of Missouri. We got this happening, right? It was Texas first, and then California said, well, we're going to redraw district lines. The difference in California is that it's a ballot initiative. And I don't know if you've seen into the information. If you thought this was going to be a very straightforward, easy to understand ballot initiative in California, yeah, right. They sent out a pamphlet to California voters that had pages missing in the part of the pamphlet that was supposed to show voters what the wording of the resolution was going to look like. They are going to make it as complicated as they possibly can, and they're going to spend millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars trying to confuse people and to push what they want across the finish line. So Texas is going to pick up Republican seats. We'll see what happens with California. Missouri's going to pick up a seat. There appear to be other Republican states where you could have additional red seats that fall into the House. And it's a roadmap that has more options than the one for Democrats if they want to continue down this road as well. So it's, a ballot initiative in California. Maryland is a state where potentially they could add opportunities for Democrats. But you've also got Ohio and Florida on the Republican side where they could make those districts better. And I love the quotes that you get from the left. Democrats have denounced the move as a power grab designed to enact President Trump's will, but they were powerless to stop it with minorities in the state House and Senate. But opponents of the new map probably going to pursue a legal challenge. Kind of a mess all over the place. What are the odds that when it is all said and done, the breakdown ends up about what it is right now? I mean, there might be a net of a couple of seats one way or the other, but it feels like when it's all shakes out, not going to be a whole lot of change. But man, lawyers got paid. Lawyers got paid. There was a House committee meeting last week right here in Mississippi where the committee heard arguments for and against more school choice. Hearing at the Capitol was part of Speaker Jason White's commitment to listen to the public and education professionals as his chamber considers legislation come January. Those who spoke in opposition of implementing more school choice, Director of Education Equity at the Mississippi Center for Justice, Dr. Kim Wilkie, Biloxi School District Superintendent Marcus Boudreaux, One of Wiley's concerns was, should the state decide on universal school choice, the possibility of all of the nearly 77,000 children who are homeschooled or currently enrolled in a private school becoming eligible for state funding. Public schools believe that would happen at the expense of them. The debate rages on and on and on. Quick timeout. JT Mitchell joins us on the other side. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Sebring.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Here we go. Now back to Mornings with Richard Cross.
now that's entertainment.
Our Mondays would not be complete without a Mitchell from without a visit from JT Mitchell, the news director with the SuperTalk Mississippi news team. He's told us often they take no days off. There's no vacation. In the news world, it never stops. SuperTalk.fm is your home for all of the news that you need, all the news that you want in Mississippi. Good morning, JT.
Hey, Richard. How are you?
Good, man. It's a good weekend. Good weekend.
I'm glad you could fit me in the schedule today.
Yeah, well, we do what we can. Did you have a good weekend as well?
I did. Of course, it was busy. We had a few hard news stories pop up, and then college football all weekend long, or at least it felt like that. But it was a fun weekend.
No doubt. I was with the boys on Sports Talk with Hey Dad and Borky a couple of days last week, and I guess it was Thursday afternoon. I asked the question. This past weekend was one that had been built up for a long time. Like back in the summer, people were looking at, the weekend of September 27th. Oh, so many great games. Was it going to live up to the billing? Would it disappoint or would it exceed? I think it exceeded. I mean, it was everywhere you looked, you had great games, whether it was in the SEC or in other parts of the country. A really, really good, exceptional college football weekend.
Yeah, and you're right. All of you guys on Sports Talk have been circling this weekend on the calendars for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, everything from Ole Miss to LSU to Penn State to Oregon. And now one game that a lot of people back in the summer probably didn't think would be too great was Mississippi State, Tennessee. Well, that was arguably the best game of the weekend.
It was incredible.
And unfortunately, the Bulldogs came out on the wrong side, but it came down to the final play. And if any football game comes down to the final play, it's worth watching.
I agree with that. And, the presentation on TV in Oxford and in Starkville was spectacular. I went back and watched kind of the beginning of the Ole Miss LSU game, and I don't remember. I know it has changed a little bit in this new ABC window where they've got a longer pregame show, but they carried the national anthem in its entirety. They showed the B-2 flyover, and the visuals of the whole thing were just spectacular. Then, of course, in Starkville, sold-out stadium. There's a lot of orange there as well, but I think that's kind of what makes SEC football cool, is when you have road fans that travel as well, and it creates a great environment. So there was a lot of good all over the place. We are unofficially in event season. Obviously, college football is happening, but big events all over Mississippi, including Cruising the Coast, including the State Fair, including Sanderson Farms Championship, and it is a good couple of weeks that we're about to launch into.
It is, and no matter where you live, there's something near you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, but these three events, they pretty much overlap every single year, and it's hectic. It's fun. It really is. So you started with Cruising the Coast. That will rev up this Sunday.
I see what you did there.
Go until next Sunday. Yeah, plenty of hot rods. Actually, over 8,500 pre-registered. They've already made about 10,000 registration bags. We won't get an official number until probably sometime next week, but I think they're going to break a record for most registered cars at Cruising the Coast. That's just my prediction. And I don't know if you've ever been down there for it, Richard. I assume you have.
I have not.
Oh,
I have not.
Okay. Well, I mean, it is, they call it America's largest block party. And it really is, considering it's in 12 cities, is 60 miles long worth of a block party. And, you know, next week, if I come back on and I say, hey, I got word that there's 10,100 cars registered for Cruising the Coast, you can go ahead and double or triple that in your mind, because trust me, there are plenty of cars that come out that they don't go through the paperwork. They're just there to have fun. And even if you're not a car person, I mean, there's live music, there's tons of stuff to do. And if you live on the coast this week, I suggest you find a back way to work.
Yeah. The main thoroughfare may lead to some traffic issues. I'm glad you pointed out what you did about the stretch, right? Because so many times we think about an event and it is local to a community. This is local to a region. When you've got ops in Bay St. Louis and Biloxi and D'Iberville and Gulfport and Pass Christian and Ocean Springs and Pascagoula, I mean, it stretches the coast.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And yes, it may stretch the entire coast, but you even get some impact north, Hattiesburg, etc. The economic impact in 2021 for the entire state, just for the week of Cruising the Coast, was $33 million.
Wow.
Now, if you're doing an event where thousands of people have fun and then you create millions in economic impact, I think you're doing that event right. And so major props to Woody Bailey and everybody else who gets Cruising the Coast done down there. And I said this week, you know I meant next week, October 5th.
Starting next Sunday.
Right. Yeah. Starting on Sunday and going through Sunday, October 12th. It's going to be a fun time for the 29th edition of Cruising the Coast. And not to mention next year is the 30th anniversary. So if this year's big, next year will be even bigger.
Lance, I think you should make plans to be down there on Tuesday to participate in the flame-throwing competition.
I'd be in, man. I'd have to figure out how to do this there. But, yeah,
well,
I would love to do that.
That'd be a good remote, though.
No, it'd be an awesome remote.
SuperTalk Mississippi will be at Cruising the Coast. So, of course, tune in to your local station to hear all the good folks around here.
A lot of good stuff on the way. The Mississippi State Fair gets started later this week as well.
Yeah, and we touched on that a little bit last week because I know you're a Pronto Pup guy.
Mm-hmm. Which is not part of the 58 million pounds of sausage-related on-a-stick products that is being recalled.
You read my mind. Thank you for pointing that out. If you are like Richard Cross and you love a Pronto Pup from the State Fair, you're good to go. Don't worry about a recall. You can get that Pronto Pup beginning on Thursday, and it will go all the way until Columbus Day, 2 Mondays from now. And the State Fair, yeah, you know, sometimes when people think about fairs, they're like, those are kind of corny. I really do enjoy the Mississippi State Fair. Every year in Jackson, 500,000 people come out. Yes, there's rides, there's food, all that good stuff, but they always do something different. You know, a couple years ago, we had live American Idol auditions. That was fun to watch that at the State Fair. This year, they'll have the motocross event with all the motorcyclists going up ramps, all that good stuff. There's mini rodeos. Andy Gibson's done a good job of that. He's really incorporated the Dixie National into the State Fair, kind of a little sneak peek. Tickets are cheap. They're affordable. There are days where, you know, military personnel and first responders get in free. So just go to supertalk.fm. Should be the first article there to find out everything to know before you go.
One other thing that you got to go to the fair just to be provoked by the people running all the games. That's some of the best entertainment ever. You know, so
the carnies.
The carnies, man, they're the best. They'll talk you into anything.
I thought about saying that word. I didn't know if that's PC nowadays to say carny. But yes, the State Fair brings in an interesting crew.
I don't really care if it's PC or not. It's not derogatory. At least not in my mind. I love the carnies.
That's what I'm saying. They're the best entertainment there, man. You just have a conversation with those guys, just like, where'd you come from? I mean, it is amazing what you learn from those dudes. And then they'll definitely take the money in your hand, and you will lose your game you're going to play every time.
Yeah, do not ask them to guess your weight. I don't know how they do that, but they tend to get it within the 5-10 pound range every time, and you're money down. But if you do pick up a conversation with one of the fair workers, I encourage you to ask them about how they got into it. I mean,
that's my point. Yeah,
exactly.
It's so interesting.
Like they have a circus. The Ring Brothers Circus has an event at the state fair. And those circus families, I mean, they go way back. Like people that are born in circus families, they live and breathe that stuff.
They're all ultimately related to P.T. Barnum. Just distant relatives.
And I'm glad that I wasn't born in a circus family.
Yeah. 8 names, 3 golf courses: the Magnolia State Classic, the Magnolia Classic, the Deposit Guarantee Classic, the Southern Farm Bureau Classic, the Viking Classic, the True South Classic, and, of course, the Sanderson Farms Championship. That's what it's been since 2013, when Joe Sanderson saved the tournament. It's been played at Hattiesburg Country Club, at Annandale, and now at the Country Club of Jackson. Big golf tournament, great field, and looks like the weather is going to be spectacular.
Man, it's going to be great out there. And I went to it when it was the Viking Classic at Annandale. Never made it to Hattiesburg. And then, of course, I've been going since it came to CCJ. You know, CCJ is a great course, and maybe the best one they've had yet. These PGA guys, they love the greens. And so this week, actually, the Pro-Am is underway right now. But the professional side of the tournament will begin on Thursday and go through Sunday. And it's your one chance of the year to go out to a PGA event in the state of Mississippi.
You can still get tickets online at SandersonFarmsChampionship.com. At SandersonFarmsChampionship.com. The tournament play begins on Thursday and goes through next Sunday. It's part of the FedEx Fall Series on the PGA Tour. Got a few more minutes with JT Mitchell. We'll chat a little bit more on the other side of this timeout. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Mississippi. Twitch on. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Good to be with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross. One last time on this Monday morning, the 29th of September, start of a new week. Thanks for spending part of your morning with us. Richard Cross, Lance Tolbert, JT Mitchell from the Super Talk Mississippi news team. I hesitate to say this out loud because we are not officially to the end of hurricane season. But it has been a quiet hurricane season for the Gulf. And, not find some wood to knock on. We all need it. There are a couple of hurricanes that are drawing some attention. You've got Imelda off in the Atlantic and Humberto off in the Atlantic as well. Looks like Imelda's headed east and isn't going to factor. I mean, other than maybe some heavy rain and some wind across the east coast of Florida. And Humberto's out around Bermuda. How long before it feels like we're in the clear?
Well, real quick, like you said, Hurricane Humberto and Tropical Storm Imelda, they're still churning out in the Atlantic. But as of now, they should stay out there. The southeast coast may get some impacts from the outer rain bands of Imelda. Mm-hmm. You know, Gulfport in that area may get a little bit later on in the week. But as of now, though, we should see no direct landfall here in the U.S. Most of that rain will be contained to the Carolinas and Florida. You scare me when you say that we're almost out. And I think a lot of Mississippians are like that because sometimes we're like, oh, man, it's almost there. And then, boom, something hits. Peak hurricane season is supposed to end in mid-October, okay? And so if we can make it to October 20-ish, I'd say, without something major, I'd feel really good. I really would. It is worth noting, though, that hurricane season is technically supposed to go through November 30th. But I believe, I always think back to this conversation you had with Mallory White when she was at MEMA, and she said, we still do have a hurricane season, But we're seeing storms in December and January now. I mean, we're pretty much seeing storms year-round. And so, yes, this is a good reminder, though, that, we all want to think about fall and maybe the weather will get better and putting the pumpkins outside. But hurricane season is still here. So get your emergency prep kit ready if you don't already have it ready, and just prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Yeah, hopefully you don't need that until next year or the year after. Just kind of using your timeline, I popped Gulfport up on the long-range forecast. This takes us to through October 13th. Basically every day a high of 85 and a low of 70. And the highest chance for rain on the long-range forecast for Gulfport is 36% this coming Sunday. I mean, it is just a carbon copy day after day after day right now. So hopefully that is good news, not just for the Gulf Coast, but the entire state of Mississippi. I know we got farmers who would have liked to have had some more rain, probably would have liked to have had less rain in the spring, a little more rain in the summer, and now they want it to be dry. It looks like you're going to get the dry wish, at least for getting cotton out and trying to get toward the end of harvest.
Yeah, we've had the dry wish for a while now, it feels like.
Yeah.
I mean, all my grass is dead.
Yeah, kind of right there with you. President made headlines last week with the Tylenol announcement, and it wasn't necessarily that the administration said this, but Tylenol itself and a study from researchers at Harvard said that there could be links to autism. Physicians here in the state of Mississippi have pushed back on that.
Yeah, and I know we don't have too long, so this is a great opportunity to promo what the news team is doing. SuperTalk.fm, we are covering every headline imaginable, one of which was this Tylenol announcement. A week ago, the president held his press conference, and I think he said a dozen times to pregnant women not to take Tylenol. And you know, as long as I can remember, that's been something that doctors have said pregnant women can use to treat high fever or to treat fever and other pain. And so Jill Sanchez, one of our reporters, she reached out to two former presidents of the Mississippi State Medical Association. And, you know, I've seen a lot of reports from other states where a bunch of doctors have just come out and said that President Trump was reckless and irresponsible with his announcement. Now, they did not go that far, but they did say the best available research does not support a claim of Tylenol causing autism at this time. They also said as long as pregnant women continue to consult with their doctors, Tylenol should be a safe first-line treatment to fever and other pain. I will say, both also said that they hope that now that this conversation has some fuel to it, because it really does, that maybe some more research will be done by the administration and others to try to get the autism rates down.
Got a big week coming up for you here on Mornings with Richard Cross, including conversations with Andy Gibson, Congressman Mike Ezell. We'll ask him about that Secretary of the Coast Guard position and a whole lot more. That's on Wednesday. We'll keep you up to date with everything that's happening. Thanks, JT.
See you, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance.
You're welcome, man. I look forward to tomorrow.
As do I. Look forward to being back with all of you tomorrow morning, just after 6 o'clock. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Hope you have a great Monday.
A Super Talk Mississippi media production.